To what extent do you think they or others around you were aware of the challenges you were personally dealing with? And is there something we can learn as leaders in terms of how we look after our staff and maybe what signs we look out for in terms of mental health?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because one of the things, I'm very, very open now, and I've always been reasonably open. But what I never did until really this didn't start till 2005, so after I'd left Downing Street, I used to kind of cover it up a bit. If I was feeling depressed, I'd just power my way through it. I wouldn't let on to anybody. People who knew me well could tell something wasn't right. But unless you're open, I don't think they know how to engage with you in the way that might be mutually beneficial. So Tony Blair, I was saying in the book, the only time I've ever criticised him publicly was when he wrote in his book, I thought, a very stereotyping passage about me. He said I was a genius, which was very, very nice of him. But he also said that he knew about my kind of mental health struggles. But he said, in my experience, there are two kind of mad people. There are people who are just crazy and they're dangerous. And there are people whose madness lends them creativity and verve and wit. And that was me, right? And I said that, I mean, you've got Stephen Fry on the, as you say, on the cover. That's what people say about him as well, right? But it completely stereotypes the reality for most people who are mentally ill, which is, you know, life is just fucking hard. And it's, you know, they're not crazy. They're not going to go and chop somebody's head off because Jesus told them to. They're just, you know, living in a house, often on their own because they can't face other people, and life's miserable. And then, now it's true, I think, that I get creativity and energy. I do. When I'm coming out of a gloom, I'm absolutely on it. But I don't think he was as aware. I think Gordon Brown might have been, but the thing is about politics is that, and they're both people who, if they want something, they want it. And, you know, in a way, I'm not criticizing them for this, because I think to get to the top in politics and be good at it, as opposed to Boris Johnson, who just gets to the top and is crap at it. Tony and Gordon, they were, you know, they were driven. They were both very, very driven. So they would probably, I'm being very frank now, they would probably only have really worried about it if it was actually starting to affect their effectiveness, the effectiveness of their operation. I'm not criticizing them for that, by the way. It's an abnormal life. It's an abnormal profession. I think within something like the health service, I tell you, I had a terrible, I think I've written about this in the book. It's so long since I've written it now, I can't remember, but if I haven't, I'll tell you this story anyway, about a nurse that I met who told me that she's bipolar. She gets treated in a different trust because she's worried about it getting her records being seen by somebody. So she travels to see a GP. She's told none of her colleagues. And she says when she's on a major downer, she gets her elder daughter to phone the ward to say that her sister's ill and mum's got to stay off and look after her. And then she tells the younger daughter, I can't take you to school because the other nurses might see me when I'm dropping you off. And I think, and that's the health service. Now, I'm not saying that's common. I'm simply saying that's an illustration of where the stigma and the fear of what that stigma does in the workplace, not least in promotion and so forth, that is in some ways worse than the symptoms. How much better would she be off if she felt completely comfortable in saying to her boss, I'm having a really, really bad day. I'm going to need to take the day off. And that's not going to be held against her. Yeah. I think we're a long, long way from that. So I just think we've got to get to that place of feeling, of encouraging the openness without there being blame.